Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now, this time we're going to do some MCQs topic wise on the chapter on gas exchange because I have not previously put any video. So, because there's a lot of change in this chapter, so smoking has been removed. So, we're going to do MCQs on this chapter exclusively for the 2022 syllabus. As you can see, if you compare this with the previous syllabus, a lot of changes have been done to it. A lot of things has been removed. It says just to describe the structure of the gas exchange system, lungs, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli, capillary network. Describe the distribution of the gas exchange system of cartilage, ciliated epithelium, goblet, squamous and alveoli, smooth muscles and capillaries. Recognize cartilage, ciliated epithelium, goblet cells, squamous epithelium, smooth muscle and capillaries in photomicrographs and electron micrographs. Then again recognize trachea, bronchioles, alveoli in photomicrographs and electron micrographs. Make plan drawings of transverse sections. Describe the functions of the ciliated epithelial and goblet cells and mucous glands. Describe the function in the gas exchange system of cartilage, smooth muscle, elastic fiber and squamous epithelium. Describe gas exchange between air in the alveoli and blood in the capillary. So if you know the syllabus, you know what sort of MCQs are going to come on it. Before we start with the MCQs, I would like you to look at a few slides which I've collected from the internet. First of all, you've got to understand the lumen of the trachea. So there is the tracheal epithelium, which you can see here, this lining here, this whole thing, which is the tracheal epithelium. And then you can see the tracheal glands. Then you can see the smooth muscle. This is very important to identify because you see, you're going to be asked in this thing. So these are the smooth muscles. And then you must be able to pick up the structure of the hyaline cartilage. It's a very typical structure. These cells are called chondrocytes, and it's got this sort of like a cell like this, and then it's got a little nucleus like this. So this is a very typical structure which you see of cartilage, and I'll show you some more slides and you can pick this up. So please pause the video here, have a look at it. I will remove the markings on it. Now look at this one. Now this is something to revise what? Terminal bronchiole. So TRA, or other ways it can be ART. So terminal bronchiole, then respiratory bronchiole, then alveolar duct, and then alveoli. You must be knowing this. Terminal bronchiole is immediately after the bronchus. That's called the terminal bronchiole. Then this is the structure of the trachea. You can see here the trachealis muscle, which is this here. And then you can see this very nice cartilage. This is the C-shaped cartilage which goes all around. So this has to be the trachea. And of course, this is a cross section of the trachea. Then we come on to another one. Now you can see these plates of cartilage. Now the bronchus has plates of cartilage, hyaline cartilage plates. Now these are very typical, and I've also talked about them in my video which I have made on this. Then another photomicrograph. So cartilage plate, you see when the section is cut, then it is cut in different planes, you see. So this would be the cartilage plate here, then you can see a bit here, then you see a bit here. And this is a bronchus, and then you can see the bronchiole here, pulmonary vessel here, alveoli is of course all this area is the alveoli. So pulmonary vessel, you can see there's this blood clot in it. There will be pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins. Then another diagram, alveolus, muscle. The muscle layer is very typical, terminal bronchiole, epithelium, ciliated epithelium, smooth muscle. The smooth muscle is very, this area, this is a smooth muscle, looks like this. Cartilage plate, glands, epithelium, smooth muscle. Now let's start with question number 1. The photomicrograph shows a cross section through the lining part of the respiratory system. Which statements about the photomicrographs are correct? Now this is very confusing. It's very confusing and not very easy, I agree. Goblet cells are visible. Yes, this is a goblet cell. mucus here, because you can see this is the ciliated epithelium. This is the cilia. So ciliated epithelium. So goblet cells are visible between the squamous epithelium cells. Now, here was the thing that you were going to miss out, which nearly every student missed out. Goblet cells were visible, yes, but what is this? Squamous epithelium is only present in the alveoli. Squamous epithelium is not present here. Here we have ciliated epithelium. You must know the differences between the ciliated epithelium. So the epithelium, three different ones we studied: ciliated epithelium, squamous epithelium lining the alveoli, and then endothelium, which lines the capillaries or the blood vessels. So that is why one was wrong. Though you can see the goblet cells, but they are not visible between the squamous epithelium cells. So that is why this was wrong. Smooth muscle, yes, is visible. You can see the smooth muscle in certain areas here. And the section cannot be from a bronchiole, as cartilage is visible. Yes, this is the cartilage. Because bronchus and bronchiole, you've got to know the differences. So that is why the answer was D. That was 2 and 3. Now coming to question number 2, the surface tension of the layer of liquid lining the alveoli tends to pull the walls inwards, so alveoli could collapse. Which statements could explain how this is prevented? Alveolar fluid is moved around the cilia. There is no cilia in the alveoli. Elastic fibers keep the alveoli open. Elastic fibers only stretch and recoil. So the only answer which was correct was 3. So that is why the answer was D. Epithelial cells secrete a chemical. Epithelial cells. Sometimes they write endothelium. That would be wrong. Epithelial secrete a chemical that reduces the cohesion in water. Question 3. Which statements about the human gas exchange system are correct? The absence of cartilage in small bronchioles allows them to expand. The walls of the alveoli are made of cuboidal. No cuboidal epithelium. It's squamous epithelium. Alveoli secrete a substance which reduces the surface tension. The trachea and bronchi are supported by rings of cartilage, the plates of cartilage. In the trachea there are rings, and in the bronchi there are plates of cartilage. So that is why the answer was B. 1 and 3 was correct. Then four types of cells in the gas exchange are listed: alveolus epithelium cells, squamous epithelium; ciliated cells lining the trachea; goblet cells produce mucus; glycoprotein; M smooth muscle cells. So the ticks in the table show specialized feature of three of these types of cells. I would only concentrate on the goblet cells. Why would I concentrate on that? Because they produce mucus, which is a glycoprotein. And for glycoprotein, for the proteins, you need ribosomes. And for the glycogen part, you need the Golgi apparatus. And for protein synthesis, you need a lot of ATP, so you need a lot of mitochondria. So I would have only gone like this: is I would have said 3 is got all the three of them. So that has to be L. And that was the only answer. L was only present in 1. So 3 had to be goblet cell. Sometimes you see, you've got to understand is, if you know one point, that is actually the picking up point. Goblet cells produce mucus. Mucus is a glycoprotein, Golgi, protein ribosome. For protein synthesis, you need ATP. So for ATP, you have to have many mitochondria. So many mitochondria, lots of endoplasmic reticulum, because more the endoplasmic reticulum, more the ribosomes on it, more the protein synthesis on it, and the Golgi is also going to modify or add the glycogen part. So the answer was C. Question number 5. Which features are important for the process of diffusion of oxygen out of an alveolus? Now, in such questions, what you have to find out is which one. So you see the answers are 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2, and 4. Now, there's sometimes a clue in it. Let's read all of them. Number 1, blood pressure forces red blood cells through capillaries. Number 2, epithelium is permeable to respiratory gases. Moist squamous epithelium present. Substance to reduce surface tension. But what are we talking about is diffusion of oxygen out of an alveolus. So this is an alveolus. So we want the oxygen to diffuse out into the blood capillary nearby. So 4 is wrong. When you know that 4 is wrong, then this is wrong and this is wrong. So you narrow down your choices to 1, A and C. Now 1, 2 and 3 or 1 and 3. So when you look at it, it is blood pressure does force the red blood cells through capillaries. So that is going to help in the oxygen diffusing out. It's going to squeeze the blood cells. So the answer is A. Then why is 3 moist squamous? Why? Because of what did I tell you when I gave you the lecture on it? I said oxygen dissolves in the film of moisture. Oxygen dissolves because in the alveoli you've got air. So oxygen dissolves in the film of moisture, which is in the alveoli. So this is the film of moisture. So this film of moisture, the oxygen dissolves in the film of moisture. So A is the answer. Now coming to question number 6. A student viewed 3 slides. A student viewed 3 slides at both low magnification and high magnification. Each slide was a section through a different airway of the gas exchange system. The student observed 3 features in each slide. Irregular arrangement of cartilage, highly folded inner layer, cilia on epithelial cells. Very few goblet cells, cilia on epithelial cells, thick layer of smooth muscle relative to wall thickness. Smooth muscle tissue, blood vessels, and many goblet cells. So if there are many goblet cells, where would that be? If there are many goblet cells, where would that be? Many goblet cells are in the trachea. As soon as the air enters it, that's when we are going to trap all the that's where we're going to trap all the dust particles and the pathogens and the virus and the bacteria and all the dust and particles of organic matter. So which row correctly? So you got trachea only here. So 6 is A. You see, sometimes there is something which helps you to decide which one is it, because you have to decide between the bronchus and the bronchiole. And you know that one irregular arrangement of cartilage, that's in the bronchus. Now the diagram shows 3 features found in the mammalian gas exchange system: ciliated epithelium, goblet cells, and cartilage. Which structures of the gas exchange could be represented by X in the diagram? X has got all the 3 things. Small bronchioles only, small bronchiole and bronchus, trachea only, trachea and bronchus. You see, cartilage is present in both trachea and bronchus. So that is why the answer is D. Then coming to question number 8. What explains how the maximum volume of oxygen is taken up as blood passes through the capillaries of the lungs? Now let's read the question carefully. Each hemoglobin molecule can temporarily bind to 4 oxygen atoms. B. The dissociation of carbon dioxide from carboxyhemoglobin We don't study that anymore. Carbon monoxide forms carboxyhemoglobin. So B is totally wrong. The binding of the first oxygen molecule to hemoglobin decreases the affinity, in fact, increases the affinity. Oxyhemoglobin formation increases the ability of red blood cells. So the answer is D. But why is it not A? Because each doesn't bind to 4 oxygen atoms, it binds to 4 molecules, 8 atoms. It's 4O2. You can see this, I've added this little diagram to it. How much oxygen can be carried? Overall, each molecule can combine with 4 oxygen molecules. This means that 8 oxygen atoms can be carried by each hemoglobin molecule. So Hb plus 4O2 gives you HbO8. So please understand this part, and that is how, if you didn't know this, you're going to make this little mistake. So that is why A was wrong, and that's why only D was correct. So you have to sometimes do it which ones are wrong. So which ones are wrong, then you come to the one which is correct. The image shown is a photomicrograph of a transverse section of part of the gas exchange system. What describes the image? Now this is not testing actually any biology, but it's testing more of your English. It says, what describes the image? A thin layer. No, this is not a thin layer. This is a very thick layer. So A and B are wrong. Thin layer, very thin layer of ciliated epithelium. So this is the cilia. This whole thing is the ciliated epithelium. It's a very C, an inner layer of ciliated and goblet on top of elastic fiber supported by an outer layer. Well, the answer is C, but why is the answer not D? This is what I want you to understand. A and D was wrong because thin layer was wrong. D is wrong because it says an inner layer of ciliated epithelium goblet on top of loose tissue with mucous glands supported by a continuous ring of cartilage. No, we can only see the cartilage is here. This part is the cartilage. I cannot see a continuous ring of cartilage. This picture doesn't tell me this. What describes the image? You're only given this image. We have no clue. There's only this bit of cartilage which you can see. This is cartilage. I don't know if it's a continuous ring or if it's a discontinuous ring or if it's plates or whatever. So I always say, it's more checking your English skills rather than your biological skills. Question number 13. The table shows some parts of an animal's lung that contain different cell types. Part of the lung, trachea, bronchus, bronchiole, alveoli, cell type present, ciliated goblet, smooth muscle. Which parts of this animal's lung clean inhaled air which carry out gas exchange? Clean inhaled air. So clean inhaled air is only done by the bronchus, bronchiole and trachea. Alveoli never. So gas exchange, this was also the clue. Gas exchange only takes place in where? In the alveoli and the alveolar duct. That's all. So gas exchange, this was the biggest clue that you had. Gas exchange never takes place in the bronchus or the trachea or the bronchiole. It only takes place in the alveolar duct and the alveoli. Both A's. Alveolar duct and alveoli. Gas exchange. Question number 14. What helps to maintain a steep oxygen concentration gradient between the air in the alveolus and the blood? Breathing in brings in a supply of air with a high concentration. Yes. Blood flows bring a relatively low concentration. Yes. The relatively low concentration of carbon dioxide in the alveolus results in the carbon dioxide leaving the red blood cell, allowing hemoglobin to combine with oxygen. Yes. So all three of them. Goblet cells are found in the trachea. Which cell structures will be found extensively in the goblet cells? Again, we've done this in a previous question. So it will be all three of them. So the answer is A, Golgi body, mitochondria, and ribosomes. I've talked about this in a previous question as well. Goblet cells produce mucus. Mucus is a glycoprotein. So glycoprotein means more ribosomes, more Golgi, and more mitochondria. Why mitochondria? Because mitochondria is needed for protein synthesis. It's an energy requiring process. More ATP is used. Question 16. The table shows the partial pressure of CO2 and oxygen in two blood vessels. Carbon dioxide 6 in pulmonary artery, 5 in the pulmonary vein. Oxygen 5 in the pulmonary artery, 15 in the pulmonary vein. What explains the difference in the partial pressure of oxygen in the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein? You know, pulmonary artery is carrying deoxygenated blood to the lungs, and then the pulmonary vein is bringing. So oxygen diffuses from the alveoli into the blood in the capillaries. So the answer is A, but why is it not B? Because it said what explains the difference. So carbon dioxide diffusing into the alveoli from the blood in the capillaries is not going to understand this partial pressure. Oxygen diffuses from the body cells into the blood in the capillaries. Yeah, well, that is because of the pulmonary, that's because of the aerobic respiration taking place in the cells of the body, and that is diffusing in, and that is not going to be the result of, because it says the differences in the partial pressure of oxygen in the pulmonary artery. Why is the partial pressure 5 and 15 in the pulmonary vein? You have to only explain to me this part. So this is wrong. And again, this is wrong. We're not talking about carbon dioxide. We're only talking about the partial pressure of oxygen. Which row shows the tissues that are present in the wall of the trachea and in the wall of the bronchus? Now, the first thing was this was the wrong. This was the red flag. Squamous epithelium is not present in the trachea and in the bronchus. It's ciliated epithelium. Squamous epithelium is only in the alveoli, and that was the biggest thing that you have to pick up. You must know. I'm going to in the end do something about the epithelium so that you all are very clear about it. So cartilage, yes, and goblet cells, yes. The rest was all rubbish. So 17, the answer was C. 18 is not in your syllabus. 19. Now this is of course something that we always talk about a lot and we are always very confused about it. 19. How many times must a molecule of carbon dioxide pass through a cell membrane as it diffuses from the plasma through a cell in the capillary wall into the alveolus? So this is the capillary. This is the capillary wall. So it is made up of one cell. And then we have the alveolar wall, which is again made up of one cell. So how many does it cross? It crosses 4. How does it 4? Let's get this right. So we have this cell. I'm going to draw it a little bigger. And this cell. So now let me tell you how is it 4. So from the plasma it is entering. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Please imagine a cell as a round structure. So it has to enter from one cell membrane and exit from the other cell membrane. A cell is something spherical. It's not, you have to imagine it in 3D situation. So how many cell membranes will it cross? And then another MCQ of yours said how many phospholipid bilayers would it cross? That would be 8. Because each cell membrane is made up of 2 phospholipid bilayers. So that is also an MCQ which you can get. Question number 20. Which row correctly features present in the terminal bronchioles? There will be no cartilage. So the answer is C. Bronchioles will have the cilia and the smooth muscle. So question number 20 is C because it says terminal bronchioles. You see, you've got the trachea, then you've got the right and the left bronchus, and then you have the terminal bronchioles. Then the respiratory bronchioles. So first T, terminal, and then is the alveolar duct, and then the alveoli. So terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and then alveoli. Question number 21. The photomicrograph shows a section through lung tissue. Which structures are present in this photomicrograph? Now you can see these are these plates. You can see these are these plates of cartilage. But what you cannot see is the trachea. A trachea, as I explained to you earlier, would have a C-shaped cartilage in it. But there's no trachea in it. And there's only one answer. So the answer is A. There were plates of cartilage, but there was no trachea in it. Question 22. Which statements about all bronchioles are correct? The goblet cells, ciliated cells, muscles. No, all bronchioles, especially the end ones, do not have any goblet cells. So the answer is D. They do not have goblet cells right in the end, just before the alveoli. Then 23. Which are present in bronchioles? Endothelium. That is, here was the red flag. Everybody does not remember that endothelium is only found in blood vessels. It cannot be present in. So wherever there's one, that's wrong. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So that was very easy to guess then. The answer was D. Number 24, the partial pressure of oxygen and air inside the alveoli is 14 kPa. Alveoli 14 kPa. The partial pressure of oxygen in the pulmonary capillaries is 6 kPa. What will be the effect of these partial pressures on diffusion? Carbon dioxide will not diffuse in any direction. Oxygen will diffuse from the alveoli into the capillaries. Answer is B. Oxygen will diffuse from the capillaries into the alveoli. That's wrong. Oxygen will diffuse equally in both directions. Question 25 has been removed from your syllabus, so I'm not talking about that. Question number 26. The diagram shows a photomicrograph of part of a bronchus. Which label identifies smooth muscle? So again, I've shown you some diagrams before this also. So this is B is the cartilage, C is the muscle. So that is why the question 26, the answer is C. What is D? D is the epithelium. C is the muscle. B is the cartilage. Which statements about all bronchioles are correct? Wave epithelium, goblet, muscle. No, goblet cell is not present in all the bronchioles, especially in the ones later on. The respiratory bronchioles do not have any, so the answer is B. Which structures are found in bronchi? Not bronchioles, bronchi. Which structures are found in bronchi? All three of them. Then 29. Which tissue in the respiratory system is correctly linked to its function? Cartilage, stretch and recoil. Ciliated epithelium gives protection from suspended particles in the air. Elastic fibers contract and relax. We do not talk of elastic fibers. Muscles can only contract and relax. Elastic fibers can only stretch and recoil. Smooth muscles keep trachea and bronchi open. How is that? So only the ciliated epithelium one story is correct. Ciliated gives protection from suspended particles in the air. Why? Because the mucus gets, all these things stick to the mucus, and then the ciliated epithelium, the cilia sweep the mucus up to the throat where it is swallowed, and so that is why you're protected from these dust particles and the bacteria and the viruses. Okay, that finishes this chapter and the MCQs on that. I hope this has been helpful, and best of luck and all the very best. And please do subscribe and do leave comments if anything else you want me to explain in a better manner.